Good morning, students. Let us continue with the chapter on superstitions by A G Gardiner. All the same, I suspect that when I walk round the ladder, I am rather glad that I have such respectable and unassailable reasons for doing so. He says that when I walk round the ladder, I feel pleasure, a bit happy. The reason is the logic is there, and because of the logic I am walking round the ladder, and logic is that the person can fall anything. He says that I am rather glad that I have such respectable and unassailable reasons. Because of these unassailable means something that cannot be challenged. The reason is there, and that's why I walk around the ladder. Even if conscious of this suspicion and ashamed to admit it to myself, I walk under the ladder. Even if very much conscious of this particular doubt and feel shameful to admit to myself, he says that I walk under the ladder. I am not quite sure that I have not done so as a kind of negative concession to the superstition. He says that I am not sure. This very act by me, he says that I did it as a negative concession to the superstition. I have challenged it rather than being unconscious of it. He says that I was not unconscious, I was not unaware of the fact, but in spite of that, I challenged it, and if I walk under the ladder, there is only one way of dodging the absurd dilemma, and that is to walk through the ladder. He says that there is only one way to avoid this confusion, and that is to walk through the ladder. This is not easy. In the same way, I am sensible of a certain satisfaction when I see the new moon in the open rather than through glasses. He says that whatever I do, that is not easy. Again, he says that when I see the new moon in the open, I feel pleasure. I feel glad, rather than watching the moon through the window, through the glasses. And over my right shoulder rather than my left. And if the moon appears in the open, and especially over my right shoulder, I feel rather satisfied or glad. I would not for any consideration arrange these things consciously. He says that I would not arrange the things knowing everything consciously. But if they happen so, I fancy I am better pleased than if they do not. He says that if such things happen, if the moon appears in the open, I see the moon in the open, and if it is there over my right shoulder, he says that I feel pleased if it does not happen. And on these occasions, I have even caught my hand, which chanced to be in my pocket at the time, turning over money, a little surreptitiously, I thought. Further, he says that on these occasions, I generally found my hand is in the pocket, and it is moving over the money stealthily. but still undeniably turning it. Hands have a habit of their own, and one can't always be watching them. Hands, they have their habit, and every time no one can have a watch over the movement of the hands. But these shadowy reminiscences of antique credulity which we discover in ourselves play no part in the lives of any of us. He says that these shadowy reminiscences, fade remainings of the belief, these superstitions, these are the shadows of antique credulity, ancient thought, and we discover in ourselves, they are still there in ourselves, play no part in the lives of anyone. Actually, they play no part in the life of anybody. They belong to a creed outward. Such beliefs, such superstitions, he says that they belong to a creed, a theory that is outworn, that is obsolete, that is outdated nowadays. Superstition was disinherited when science revealed the laws of the universe. Previously, superstitions were dominant in the societies, but he says that they were disinherited, almost disappeared, when knowledge, science revealed the laws of universe, the working of the nature, and put man in his place. When science came, people became educated and they found their proper place in the nature. It was no discredit to be superstitious when all the functions of nature were unexplored. He says that when all the functions of nature, they were not unexplored, they were not clear to the people. And if people at that stage, at that time, if they were superstitious at that time, they would not be blamed. And man seemed the plaything of beneficent and sinister forces that he could neither control nor understand. At that time, what was the condition of the man? Man was just a puppet, just a plaything in the beneficial and harmful forces, in the hands of beneficial and harmful wicked forces. Another problem was there with the man, that man neither could understand these forces nor could control them, but which held him in the hollow of their hand. As a result, man was held by these forces. He related everything that happened in nature to his own inexplicable existence. He says that at that time, when science was not there, the condition of the man was that he used to relate everything, whatever was happening there in the nature, he used to relate it to his own future, his own existence, which is inexplicable. So his fate in the clouds and his happiness or misery announced in the flight of the birds, and referred every phenomena of life to the soothsayers and oracles. This was the problem of the man at that time, He was not educated, enlightened, what he used to do at that time. Saw his fate in the clouds. When cloud appeared in the sky, he started thinking about his fate. His happiness or misery announced in the flight of the birds. In the flight of the birds, he used to guess the happiness moment or miserable moments of his life. And referred every phenomenon of life to the soothsayers and oracles. He used to refer every activity of his life to the fortune tellers or to the oracles or the voice of the God. Mark it here. Thank you very much.